This is 91.3 FM, WCW in Worcester, Massachusetts, the Dr. Chris Radio Horror program. And tonight on Radio Horror, we have one of the hottest women in horror, one of the hottest scream queens to appear on celluloid. We have Victoria De Mare on the show with us. Thank you for coming on the show with us, Victoria.
Woo! Ah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
How have you been?
I'm excellent, thank you. I'm working, so that's always a good thing to be employed.
What are you currently working on?
I'm working on a dramatic film called The Angry Mob Guys. It's actually something a little different for me this time. It's a dramatic feature. It's not horror related, so it's super fun.
You do a ton of independent movies. How many independent films would you say you crank out a year?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm generally booking around 10 to 15, it seems, somewhere around there. But not all those films shoot and finish within the year. So I would maybe roughly a dozen on a slow year, 10.
Do you find it easier to do like a string of independent, low budget films like horror films than doing one giant studio film?
I definitely don't find it easier. I find it much easier to work on studio films. Films shoot, maybe a page or two of the script a day. They may take an entire week to shoot one scene. Independent productions, and especially B movies, are shooting sometimes 20 to 25 scenes in a day. So they're shooting the length of an entire feature in a week when a studio film is shooting one scene in a week. So to have all that kind of money in the studio system, it's definitely easier to work on productions when you have a shit ton of money. When you don't, it's a lot of high stress, and you need people really on point and on their job, or otherwise it's just going to take even longer, and the budget's going to get stretched even more, and everyone's going to get stressed out, and it's going to be a literal nightmare on set. I work on every production I can get hired on to make a living, because I make a living as an artist. It's incredibly hard to book speaking roles in studio films. People have no idea the process that it takes to get to that point. So I'm working on it.
It was unique to find out that you were uncredited, though, you have to explain what that means when something's listed as uncredited. But you were a stripper in Deadpool.
Yes, I was. I had a fantastic scene in the strip club, a featured scene dancing on stage. I was hired as a featured player without dialogue. My agreement, was screen time and pay, but because I was not a speaking role, sometimes roles that don't speak are credited, sometimes roles that don't speak are not. I agreed to do the uncredited role because it was such a gigantic production, and all of my featured work, all of my featured dancing on the stage was cut. You see me for a second in the club, and that's about it. But I thought, Stan Lee was there. It was quite amazing, and I really thought it was going to be something fantastic. I wasn't saying anything to anyone about it because I wanted it to be a nice reveal when it came out, and then when it came out, I was cut out. That's happened to me before on Fox. Deadpool was Fox too, but Fox TV as well. I was a character on the television musical comedy television show Glee. I had a fantastic role as this nerdy hula hoop girl in this new hula hoop club that the two leads were ragging on, and then were going to join to see like what it was all about. And I was one of the main chicks in the hula hoop group, and I had this whole fantastic scene with Leah and Corey, and I thought, this is great. This is going to be my launch on the television. And I made a great paycheck, but my scenes were left on the cutting room floor. When the episode aired, I was heartbroken that I was cut out. So sometimes you could even get on set and do the job and get the paycheck, and then you don't actually make it to the final cut. And that's just the way it goes.
How long was your original scene supposed to be in Deadpool?
Well, it was the length of the entire strip club sequence. So I was there the entire 4 days they were shooting that. So what was supposed to end up on screen was really only a couple minutes, but it was like all me, just me. So there was no chance that you were gonna miss me, and all my fans and everyone who knew me was going to be able to, get a nice scene of me dancing and get a moment of Victoria De Mare in a studio film, and we didn't have that. So sorry to all the fans
Oh
as
no.
well,
Yeah.
because so many people were like, "Oh, that was one of my favorite movies of the year, and I was so excited that you were in it, and then you weren't in it." And I was like, "Yeah, sorry." And then I thought when the DVD and Blu-ray came out, it was going to appear in the deleted scenes, and it did not.
The uh so have you ever played uh have you let me start over again. Uh had you done a lot of dancing prior to that, and was that going to be like a big nude scene because it is a strip club, or
No, I mean it was in bikini. I mean it was a full-on dancing scene for sure. My career before I was an actor or before I was a professional actor, I was a professional ballet dancer. So I have tons of experience dancing, and because of that, because of my experience with ballet and jazz and tap and contemporary and modern dance, I've been a member of four dance companies. I get a lot of roles as an actor, as a stripper, and I love those roles, not just the dancing, and dancing in that way because it's so taboo and exotic and outrageous to me. It's a great gritty character, and I love to play those great gritty characters you either love to hate or you love to rag on kind of thing, the gross skank or whatever. And I love those roles; those are my favorite. So I embrace every chance I get to play a dancer on screen in any way. I embrace it because I'm also a professional dancer.
so the crazier the role, the better? Something like Dracula in a women's prison.
Oh yeah, the crazier the better. Outrageous, over the top horror comedy like that, which is really, really bordering on spoof, is right up my alley. I love horror comedy.
Would you have to say probably your gooeyest, most disgusting role would be in is excuse me if I don't have the title correctly. What is it? Terror Titans, I remember.
Terra Titans. Terra Titans, no. Perhaps you're thinking of Bioslime.
Bio Slime, that's what it is. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I That was a really fun film, great film. Funny kind of comedy, sci-fi horror. It was a gooey mess, and you know why? It's because like the goo, the actual goo looking stuff that they put on me was like this glycerin like real like goo, and it was just really hard to get off, especially out of my hair. Like it was I love getting all gooey and disgusting like that. I'd prefer to play a character like that for the rest of my career. I mean, I just love that. I love playing the monster. I love playing the unexpected. Playing the hot chick is a lot of pressure, and I'm really sick of that. I'd much rather play the disgusting crack horror monster demon coming out of the sewer than the hot chick main babe any day of the week. But that material that they use, it wasn't really the latex paint that was so difficult. It's water soluble. It just crumbles when it hits water, but the glycerin that they made me look all like total goo. I mean, for lack of a better word, it looked like snot.
Yeah.
It was so hard to get out of my hair. I mean, I was literally at the studio taking a 2 freaking hour shower, getting out and walking back into the makeup room and going like, "Are you guys kidding me? Like, you have to have some other kind of remover to get this out of my hair." I have really thick, curly, long hair, so when I get something tangled up in my hair, it's ugly. It's hard to get it out.
Do you have you ever seen a movie called it's a Stuart Gordon movie from the early 2000s. I don't think it ever had a really big theatrical release in the United States. In fact, I don't believe it did. I think it went straight to DVD here, but it was based on an H.P. Lovecraft story called Dagon.
No, no, I haven't seen that.
Long story short, it's based on the H.P. Lovecraft short story Shadows over Innsmouth, and about a fishing boat that crashes aboard on an island, the island of Innsmouth, which is off the coast of Massachusetts here in New England. And
Oh,
the
cool.
four people aboard need to go get help. So two of them stay behind because one of them is injured, and the husband and wife go into the island and decide to go get help. And the island is completely abandoned, and they keep seeing people poking their heads out of doors and like rushing back in. The husband and wife get separated, and the husband and they meet an old fisherman, and he tells them like about once upon a time the island used to be full of Christ and Jesus and happiness, but however they never ever they just didn't prosper anymore in their crops and fishery until some old fisherman came to the island and said, "Hey, worship Dagon, and he'll give you the crops and the fish that you need." So they started doing that, and one by one, the townspeople started turning into ugly fish people.
Love it.
The husband runs into is running away from the fish people after him, and he runs into the room of this woman who's in bed, and she tells him, "Oh, your wife is dead, and your friends are dead. You need to be with me." And he's like, "Okay." So he starts making out with her, and as he's going, just quick to rush into like, "Oh no, my wife is dead, my best friends are dead. All right, let's make out." As he proceeds to start going downtown with his hand, if you get my drift. Because he's like fondling her breast and everything. His hand pulls back up and it's covered in this pink jelly stuff, and he pulls the sheet away and she's got squid legs.
No.
Yes. Oh and she's like, "No, you must be with me in my fantastic 10 out of squid-like body."
Oh my god, that sounds awesome. I gotta see this film.
Long story short, later on, he finds out his wife is alive, but she's like being hung by her arms above her head, stripped completely naked, covered in this black gooey stuff, and like set on fire. And he still decides to go bang the squid princess.
Oh my god.
It's like, so you just traded a 10 out of 10 for another 10 out of 10 just because she's got squid legs?
Man, that sounded like a messy, gooey day on set, too, when they were shooting that.
This guy doesn't seem to be doing too bad in the ladies department. He's into all sorts of species, apparently. You can find it on DVD on eBay. I've seen copies go, for $5 or $10. So it's out of print, but the DVD is not exactly like hard to find. Let's just say. So check it out if you're into like gooey weird shit.
I am. I love gooey weird shit.
Talk a little bit about the Killjoy series, which you seem to be heavily attached to.
Yeah, Betty Boop is the character I play. She's a demon succubus clown from hell. And that's Killjoy in the story decides he needs a posse when he comes back for vengeance in Killjoy 3. And he creates 2 posse members and his one and only badass bitch, Betty Boop. And it was a really amazing opportunity because a colleague of mine had written the script with me in mind and had contacted me telling me he was creating this really wild character, and he wants me to play it because he thinks I'm the only actress he could possibly think of that could pull it off, and he's writing it with me in mind. So I was like, wow. And we talked about it, and it seemed to be quite a challenge, and I embraced it. And she's been one of my favorite characters to play so far in my 20-year career. It was a lot of pressure, physically and emotionally. Physically, just because her wardrobe is paint, is full body paint from her head down to just below her knees because she's wearing knee-high boots, and so the requirement of the role was to be painted down in makeup 5 hours every morning in a pre-call before we shot, and full body makeup, and shot a 12-hour day. And then I had a 2.5-hour breakdown afterwards when I was finished, wrapped on the day, to get out of the makeup, which definitely took half the time it did to get it on. So I was working really, really, really long days. Almost 19 plus hour days, and at the same time trying to stay physically fit because I had to be painted completely nude in order for the makeup to take the proper effect and to look right. And that was a challenge, to kind of forget that you're fully butt-ass naked every day on set working as this character. I really mentally had to prepare. I had very early 4:45 a.m. call times to work to get into the makeup with the makeup department and the producer and director there and me. And I had to stand the whole time. I couldn't sit whatsoever because it would mess up the work. And it took so long to get it all on. You didn't want to have to go back and be retouching it whilst applying it. So I had to stand the whole time while applying it, and I just used that as the character because she was very sassy and a villain. So I tried to the director is the same guy who wrote it. His name is John Lachago, and he wanted her movement to be very specific and different than the other characters, almost like a dance. So I tried to use that as well, and he wanted her to sound a specific way. Trent was doing a quote voice. Trent Haga, the actor who played Killjoy, was doing a quote voice for his character, and the director had wanted me to come up with a voice or a sound as well, some kind of accent, but not like a technical dialect that you would study in a dialect class, but to kind of create one of your own, of a combination of something that might be Cockney or Brooklyn or Bronx sounding from New York or something. So I came up with her own little accent, her own little voice, and her own little dialogue, which I rewrote this script and all my dialogue in phonetically as Batty Boop language and memorized it as such, so I could duplicate that voice through multiple films. And the fifth film came out last fall, I believe, and they decided to merchandise the production with T-shirts and dolls, and they created a new Killjoy doll and a new Batty Boop doll, which is available worldwide for sale online. So it's very exciting that all that hard work was rewarded with becoming an action figure.
That's really cool, and the fact that you are immortalized in plastic. I guess that's the way the way you would call it is says that you have made it. And the next thing is if somebody cosplays as you. Have you ever run into a lot of Betty Boop cosplayers?
Thank you so much. It is immortalizing, and I really appreciate that from everyone, from recognizing that and being supportive of that. I am blown away by the fact that people actually dress up as Batty Boop. There has been a cosplay movement, slowly beginning of fans, not just female fans, but male fans as well. There have been some fans that have reached out to me on Facebook and sent pictures of themselves dressed up like Batty Boop, and they're going to their local conventions as her. And a lot of fans dress up as her now on Halloween, which is really super fun. And I've received some pictures of fans trying to duplicate her as well. Lots of drawings and all kinds of wonderful attributes and things that people notice, specific little drawings of my face or something in one of the films. And it's like, wow, people really paid attention, and they'll draw it for me and send it to me. And it's just really honoring and just humbling. And I think that the director told me that he was like in traffic in LA and looked over and saw a woman like Batty. He was like yelling and trying to get her to roll down her window, and he was screaming, "Batty Boop, Batty Boop." And he said it was the whole thing with the wig and the boa and the gloves, and she had the paint on and everything. And I was trying to get her to roll down her window to say, "I'm the director of that movie. I'm John Lachago, and you're playing Batty Boop. I can't believe it. What are you doing dressed up like that?" And he was like yelling at her in the traffic, and she was like, I guess had her radio on or something too loud in her car and didn't see him. And so when the light turned, she pulled away, and he was like, "Damn." So I was like, "I can't believe that." And he's like, it's starting. So I'm overwhelmed by that. I think that's amazing.
There was a particular photo, and it was actually connected to something that you do a lot of that made me go, "Hey, I know who this is, and I should try and reach out to her." There's a picture on SoundCloud where you have a lot of your own music of
Yes.
you holding your covering your breast, and there is a gun shoved up between your legs, connected to a
Yes.
song "I Am," and that I was like, well, there's something. I was like,
Yes.
well, yeah, I mean, so that gun is where, between that area and all that stuff. You are a composer, a musician as well.
Yes, yes, that's correct. That photo shoot was actually that photo came from a photo shoot for an album that I was releasing in 2011. And the album came and went. That photo was not used, but I still use that photo from that shoot because it's so outrageous and controversial. Yes, I'm nude in the picture, but you can't see any of my goodies or wobbly bits. Everything's covered. But literally, I was messing around on set with props, and I had a lot of handguns and different guns. These were all, prop guns that were made to look real by actually a prop maker for Sony Pictures. So they looked real, but they weren't real. And I was just kind of messing around in between a setup of the photo shoot. And I stood up and I put the gun, spread my legs, put the gun between my legs and covered my boobs and was like, "Hey guys, check it out. This is my big cock." And like they turned around, and they were like, "Whoa," and were like laughing, and the photographer just started shooting away. So it ended up being just one of those moments where it was like, that was a great picture that I get comments on, fans love it, and I still use it. It's my Skype ID profile photo.
Oh my god, I just noticed that now. I just noticed that now. Now, what was the original picture supposed to be? Were you supposed to be naked for this album anyway?
Well, I wanted to do something controversial. I like controversy.
Because
I
nudity
like to
is
stir up the pot.
controversy, right? I mean, why is nudity so controversial? It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I love to get people going. Anything that has anything to do with nudity, people freak out. They attribute nudity to porn, and that's just so not the same thing at all. And
No, it's not.
so I wanted to have an album cover. Actually, initially the album cover that is, I think the photo is out on I have like 5 pages of photos on my website, but the cover that we did actually use, the album was called Actress. And I still have guns, but they're handguns, and they're covering my boobies. And then I have a sparkle little shorts on, and I'm standing in front of the Hollywood sign. The Hollywood sign is over me, and we were shooting on a roof in the Hollywood Hills, where literally the Hollywood sign was right over me. So that photo with the machine gun was the photo I wanted to use for the cover artwork, but the record label vetoed it and said that it was way too controversial and no digital platform such as iTunes was going to accept a photo like that. So I did something similar that was sexy and racy but acceptable to the digital platforms, and it was just we wanted to call the album Actress because like I am a character actor in music, I'm a vocalist more than a singer in that I can manipulate my voice to sound like anything. I sing all different genres from kind of music to rap to la kind of music to everything. So a singer is someone who really has one tone and they just sing one thing really well over and over and over again. A vocalist can kind of manipulate their voice to sound like anything. So we were kind of playing on that parody of that. The album was a pop rock album, but when most people listen to it, their first question would be, "Is this the same girl singing on every song?" Because it was different, so my voice can sound different. So to me, it was, yes, it's the same girl with a different emotion, different song, different message, different emotion.
What made you want to start singing? When did you do it in your? When did you start it in your during your acting career?
I mean, my father was a singer, so I studied voice as a child and music in school. And I mean, I had been in bands, cover bands, and whatnot, all different kinds of bands for a decade, and in New York and Los Angeles, and really didn't start focusing on wanting to launch my solo career until I was working with the legendary producer Kim Fowley, who produced The Runaways and who wrote music for Alice Cooper and Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and everyone you can possibly think of from the 60s, 70s, and 80s especially. And when the film The Runaways hit theaters, I think it was in 2010, I got a phone call from him that he was recreating the new 21st Century Runaways, and it was going to be an all-girl, all-chick punk rock group, but a bigger, like not a band, like a group, more like a 9-member band or a group like Slipknot, but not heavy metal, hardcore metal like Slipknot music, but punk rock music like the Runaways, but with a new modern-day spin. And the band never went anywhere. We made a film called Black Room Doom. The band was called Black Room Doom, and we made a film like Spinal Tap. the making of a Black Room Doom, because it was a pieced together band that he chose musicians and vocalists for, that he had met over the years. And so it wasn't like we were a band that, met in someone's garage and started, rehearsing and performing and had all known each other since we were kids. We were picked by him. And that band went nowhere because all bands break up. So I decided I wanted to finally do a solo career because I'm never going to break up with myself. And I started writing an album with him that he produced that came and went in 2011 called Actress. And after that, Felly and I parted ways, and I decided to release my own production and my own music and start doing my own albums on my own label, Vic Worldwide, in 2013. That was when my first debut album, just self-titled Victoria De Mare, came out. I have a digital album out now, my second album, called Can You Not Tell? It's a 14-track pop rock album, but I say pop rock just because that's a very general description, and when people are searching things on iTunes and Apple Music and those services, unfortunately, they search pop more than they search like rock. So I want to come up on those searches, but there's a little bit of everything for everyone on the album. There's pop rock, there's pop dance, there's rock and roll, there's punk rock, there's singer-songwriter folk, there's ballads. So there's a little something for everyone.
What's the number one song that you've performed, that is you're most connected to?
I would say my hard rock track, Raw, that is featured in 2 scenes in the new Tara Reid movie that's coming out nationwide Friday, April 20th. It's called Raw. I write, produce, perform, arrange all my music with my partner, Michael Sean Collin, and we were very excited that Raw was chosen to be in Tara's film. It's a new film of hers. She hasn't been out in a horror film like this or any film in a while. So we're all really excited. It's featured in 2 scenes, but then I have another one of my punk rock tracks off my first album, Victoria De Mare, called So Long. That's the end credits. So I would say Raw is one of my most favorite songs that I'm most connected to at this point, that is out and available. I have a new album coming out this year, currently titled #Twat, which will be a 14-track album, 13 or 14, I haven't decided yet. There might be a hidden track on there. But again, it will be a variety of music. There'll be some rap on this album, including always punk rock, hard rock, a little more metal, some singer-songwriter folk, and always a little pop rock and pop dance. Just basically, there's 2 kind of rockabilly, country-ish edge pop rock songs on it as well. So there's even a little something for people who enjoy country music. I just love all genres of music, and I don't like to be pigeonholed and stuck into any one area of that kind of art. Just like as an actor, I don't like to be stuck in any one kind of role. So I like to give people a variety of different music to enjoy on my albums. I just hate it when you buy an album because you love one song and then you listen to the rest of the album and the rest of the album sounds pretty much like the song that you bought the album for, but kind of a little different. And then you're like, okay, sucks. It all kind of sounds the same. So that's not going to happen when you buy a Victoria De Mare album. You never know what you're going to get. It's going to be a variety.
Again, I found you on SoundCloud. I am not a singer-songwriter such as yourself, and I don't have original material on SoundCloud. But what I do have is a audiobook based on a graphic novel called Sunstone.
Awesome.
It's a BDSM lesbian romantic comedy.
I love it.
2 women that find each other on the internet and engage in a sub-dom relationship with all of the penthouse form kink stuff that you could possibly find in a lesbian romantic comedy.
That's awesome. I love it. That sounds fantastic. Congratulations. That sounds really fucking awesome.
We will have it, of course. Again, it's on SoundCloud, and you can find it under Sunstone audiobook. And we just going to your SoundCloud now. You'll find the link to our account just by if you go to your followers, as we just followed you now.
Excellent. I totally will. That's terrific.
what are you working on coming up, and what conventions are you going to be at coming out soon?
I'm working on a bunch of things all at once. A couple TV series, unfortunately, that I can't really talk about because I've signed
Non-disclosure
non-disclosure
agreements.
agreements.
Yep.
So you're going to see a little bit more of Victoria De Mare on television. That's all I can tell you.
That's good.
Which is really exciting. Some things being released late spring and early summer. The Tara Reid film comes out Friday, April 20th in select theaters nationwide in the US and Canada, but it's already for pre-order available on iTunes, and the digital platforms are releasing the film Friday, April 13th, which is super cool, it being Friday the 13th, so I love that. And I believe the video on demand platforms, digital services from the nationwide to Canada, from Spectrum to AT&T, Uverse, DirecTV, Dish, everyone is also. I think that they might be also airing the film either on the 20th or the 13th. I think it's actually Friday, April 13th. That comes out on video on demand also. If you don't want to wait for it to hit theaters, because it's not going to play in all theaters, just select theaters. So I love the fact that it's going to be on cable and done digital services and theaters and everywhere. So I'm really excited about that. That's called Bus Party to Hell. And I have another film called The Crossing coming out early fall that I play the central character in, about a woman who lost her love of her life right before she gets married in a freak accident. And she decides to kill herself and come back as a demon and wreak havoc on everyone and their true love, and that true happiness doesn't exist. They were on their way to get married and were killed. So everyone that crosses through the area where her husband to be was killed and where she kills herself is haunted by her, and she takes them all out. And my one of my songs, Haunted, which is on my SoundCloud link, will be the full composition, will be the score in the film. They wanted to use the song not only as the theme song, but as the instrumental version, as the entire score of the film, which I'm super excited about because that's my first credit as a composer. I am writing a full symphony, my first full symphony with a choral vocal middle section that I'll be singing myself. Of course, I can't sing all the choral parts myself live, but I'll be able to sing that and mix that and record that in the studio. But when performed live, I'll just sing the one part. But that I'm also really excited about. My intention is not only to perform that worldwide, but also to release it for sale and have it be available for licensing in any feature film or television show. So I'm really excited about that as well. I'm hoping to possibly finish that composition this year, but it may roll into early 2019 because I'm finishing up my current album, which I'm hoping to get out by early fall.
Are all of your songs acceptable for radio airplay?
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, they're all acceptable for radio airplay.
Okay. We'll play some of your songs the night that we're recording this, which happens to be March 11th, 2018. This interview will air for anyone listening at the end of March, and then will be on our Radio Horror YouTube page within the subsequent week to follow, hopefully.
Yay!
So if you're listening to this interview live right now, then you will hear Victoria's music. If you were tuning into Radio Horror just a couple weeks prior to this interview, you would have heard it on the air on March 11th, actually more like March 12th, as we would cross over into Monday morning. And then, again, this interview will be up on our YouTube channel with a slideshow of pictures of Victoria on our Radio Horror YouTube channel within about a week or so. I always want to ask this, when you go to conventions, because I've seen you do a lot of conventions, what is the craziest experience you've had with a fan?
Oh, yeah, and I'm sorry that I didn't answer the rest of your other question. I believe the next convention I will be appearing at is the Fan Expo in Toronto, the end of August, beginning of September. I love conventions. I love doing as many as I can, and I love meeting the fans in person. It's quite amazing. I think, I don't know if it was really like crazy, but one of the most amazing moments I can kind of remember in the past few years or recent years was a fan that came with, he came every day to, I want to say it was Monster Palooza a few years ago, and he brought And he would walk by my table and like wave and smile. And he never really came up and said anything until the final day. He actually came up to my table and said hi. And I was like, hi, I'd seen you all weekend. I was wondering when you were going to stop and say hi and rather just wave. And he said he was too nervous and that it took him the weekend to get up the gumption to actually walk up to my table. And I was like, oh, well, I'm so glad that you did. And he said, I want to show you something. And he puts down this huge binder that he pulls out of his backpack. And it is an incredibly creative, beautiful scrapbook of all his favorite horror actors and actresses from the decades. And there was everyone in there from, Carrie, from Sissy Spacek and Carrie. I mean, there was everyone, and there was all the girls from the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Danielle Harris was in there from the Halloween series. I mean, it was just, Elvira was in there. I mean, you name it. They were in there, and he's flipping along, and I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful. And then he flips to a 2-page spread of me. And it was like in between someone like as iconic as like Fay Wray from like the original Scream Queen from the 30s and like Elvira. And then there's Victoria De Mare in the middle of that. And I was just overwhelmed with tears. And it was a really amazing moment in my career, because I'm looking at this scrapbook with all these people that I've been fans of my whole life. And then here I am myself in this fan's book, and I signed that book for him for free for that, because that was an incredible moment.
2 questions I just got sent to me really quick that that a couple people wanted to know when I mentioned that
Sure.
I was interviewing you was being in the horror community, and of course being conventions and like now of course having a doll based on yourself. Do you collect anything? And the second question was, do you find it, as this person points out that she is just turned 50 and she's a model and she is now struggling, do you find it as you get older to secure more and more roles versus when you first started?
No, and the first question was about could you repeat the first question again so I can answer that one too?
Sorry, do you collect anything?
Oh yeah, I do. I love to collect dolls and action figures. I have my Batty Boop doll and action figure right next to the Darkness figure of Tim Curry from the 1985 film Legend. I also have the original Killjoy doll that was created after the first Killjoy original Killjoy film that starred Angel Vargas in 2000. I have that doll as well. I also have some jade dolls from Dragons and Such that my mom had gotten me from China that were really rare and amazing. I love action figures and dolls that are like action figures. I love to collect those. And to the model, I would say don't let ageism stop you in any way ever from doing your passion and performing whatever that is. I'm a model as well. I love modeling. I was told when I was a little girl that it's too bad. I'm so short because I'll never be a model, and that's too bad because you're awful cute. Well, every time I book a modeling job for the past 15 years, I think of that person, that very person saying that to me, that I would never be a model, and that's just too bad. It's because that was wrong. So don't ever let anyone tell you can't do something that you want to do. I think we're all getting older. We can't stop time, unfortunately. And I say embrace it. I feel the same way now as I do when I was a little girl making up characters in my bathroom mirror, acting out parts of my favorite movies that I just watched. So I would say to embrace your age. I think age is like wine, it just gets better with time, and like cheese, the older the cheese, the better supposedly it is. So I think that, it crosses my mind, when I'm looking at myself in the mirror, like my looks starting to fade, and no, I think that they're not. I think that that's society putting pressure on you to be something that they quote think that you should be at a certain time at your age. And I think that's ageism. So don't let it stop you. I think that the roles for myself and the work for myself gets better and better. And I mean, everything at the beginning is always difficult to get yourself started and to get the ball rolling. But once you do, just hang on and keep going. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to. And don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't do that. A and B, don't let your age stop you. It's never too late to live your dreams, and don't let anyone make you feel bad just because you're getting older, because everyone is. And don't worry.
Good, solid advice from a horror scream queen.
Thank you.
Well, Victoria, we really do appreciate you coming on the show with us and talking a little bit about your career and your music career as well. And we look forward to playing some of your songs on the air when this interview airs and the night of recording it.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we'll be able to see you at a convention up here in New England sometime.
I sure hope so.
We have a couple of horror conventions up here, such as TerraCon, kind of happens every other year. Scaricon, which just moved into my backyard, and I'm not joking. It's literally a 10-minute walk from where I live, or maybe a 2-minute drive. It's like awesome. And then Rock and Shock, which is a big horror convention that happens in Worcester every single year.
Awesome. I have a new personal appearance representative who has jumped on the bandwagon with me to try and organize these conventions and get out to more appearances, if not for the whole weekend of a convention, for at least a day or two of it. So it's so fantastic that these conventions happen like all year round, every year, annually. I look forward to them, and there's so many. So I'm going to try and get out to more of them this year and next. So everybody just kind of keep your ears and eyes peeled on social media for any announcements of my appearances, because I'm going to get out, especially to the East Coast, because I'm an East Coaster born and raised, and I got to get back to my roots.
Again, thank you so much for coming on the show with us.
Thank you so much, Chris. I hope everyone has an awesome night, and thanks for having me on the show.